The following entry into the Dreamworks Diaries contains footage from the film being discussed, which is used solely for the purposes of education, commentary, and criticism under fair use. Please support the animators by watching this film on home media or streaming services where available, and this entry also contains spoilers throughout. Dear Diary, today I watched Antz, thinking it would just be a fun, slightly weird animated movie. But instead, it hit me right in the overthinking. Early on, Z blurts out that I'm insignificant. And honestly, same. Somehow hearing that from a neurotic worker ant made it feel both funny and uncomfortably real. And as the movie went on, I kept thinking about something. Everyone needs to feel special, even if you're just an ant. For a story set underground with dirt, soldiers, and mandibles, it asks huge questions about individuality, freedom, and what it means to matter when the system tells you you're replaceable. Z keeps pushing back against this idea that life is just marching, working, and disappearing into the crowd. And that quiet rebellion felt oddly inspiring. So here I am, reflecting on my existence because of an animated ant who refuses to stay in line. And that's the magic of Antz. It reminds you that even if the world says you're small, you don't have to be big to be a hero. Questioning your place in the colony is the first step towards finding it. Hello, my fellow Dreamworks fans, and welcome to the first entry into the Dreamworks Diaries, where each diary entry will be about a different film from Dreamworks Animation. I'm the writer of those diaries, Kenzie, and today we're going to be starting our journey through Dreamworks Animation with the first ever film from Dreamworks Animation, Antz, which released in 1998. Now, for those that have been following the My Kingdom of Isolation series, will know about the story about how Antz and A Bug's Life, which also came out in the same year, feel very similar in some areas to the point where they were released relatively close to each other, about 6 weeks apart. Although often cited as the second computer animated film after Toy Story in 1995, it was actually the third, because the second film, that honor went to Cassiopeia in 1996. Now, just before we delve into Antz itself, it makes sense to go back to when the studio was first founded. So we're going to go back to 1994 for this portion of the story. Stay with me on this. This is around the time The Lion King was being marketed and released. Frank Wells, who was president of the Walt Disney Company at the time, had died following a helicopter crash. This is where Jeffrey Katzenberg enters the story. He joined Disney in 1984 and became the chairman of Walt Disney Studios, overseeing the film and animation side of the studio. And the behind-the-scenes drama on The Black Cauldron is well known among the field of animation, with the film being literally torn apart by Jeffrey himself in the editing process. Some scenes even proving to be too dark for the film, almost earning it a PG-13 or worse, an R rating from the MPAA. This is just a taste of what Katzenberg was like to work with. He was very demanding. Competitive would be a massive understatement, and even to the point where he was allegedly micromanaging the projects that he worked on, including trying to strip part of your world out of The Little Mermaid. And here's the ironic part. Supposedly, he enjoys the slower songs, despite thinking that they would be too boring for children, resulting in him wanting the films to be always on the go, full of energy, non-stop, yada yada yada. to keep the kids entertained throughout without the risk of them getting bored. He even cut all marketing for The Rescuers Down Under after Home Alone released the following year in 1990, leaving Down Under to suffer against Home Alone during the holidays especially. And yet, despite all of these drawbacks of collaborating with him at the time, Disney delivered smash hit after smash hit and Oscar after Oscar for the music, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and then The Lion King. Michael Eisner had previously implied that Jeffrey Ratzenberg would get the role of president of the company. But after seeing how he was acting during the marketing of The Lion King, Eisner decided that Katzenberg was no longer fit for the role. Michael Ovitz stepped in to fill the role in 1995 before Eisner took over in 1997. So naturally, Katzenberg, absolutely livid at the way he was treated, filed a lawsuit against Disney, which got settled in 1999 for a staggering $280 million, or the cost of making one film for Walt Disney Animation Studios today. Now, after Katzenberg was effectively forced out of Disney in 1994, he joined forces with Steven Spielberg and David Geffen, and the Dreamworks studio would be created using the initials of their surnames. Dreamworks SKG. Spielberg, Katzenberg, Geffen. And for a time, Dreamworks were Disney's biggest competitor in the 2000s, even winning the first ever Oscar for Best Animated Film with Shrek, which we'll get to soon enough. Now, this feud between Eisner and Katzenberg resulted in a massive shift in the animation industry. DreamWorks are known these days for bringing in big Hollywood names for their voice cast, some of them even Oscar winners either before or after their DreamWorks roles. The stories were ones that Disney wouldn't even dare to cover in their animated films at the time DreamWorks was founded. The humor was also seen as more edgy and catering more towards adults, while trying to remain as family-friendly as possible at the same time. That ain't easy. So, how they did this is absolutely remarkable. It's a combination of things, including two-track jokes, which is like surface versus subtext, satire, adult psychology, pop culture references, and contemporary language, as well as the comedic pacing you'd see in more adult-oriented comedies, and emotional sincerity. Now, most of these elements we will see in Antz today. But back to the comparisons between this and A Bug's Life. Similar ideas, different execution. Antz is neurotic with a Woody Allen-style protagonist, therapy, and clearly aimed at adults first, while A Bug's Life is warm, an earnest hero's journey, clear good versus evil structure, found family themes, squarely kid first, and to an extent, a timeless tone. Antz was originally going to release in 1999, but got pushed forward to 1998 and intentionally ahead of A Bug's Life, resulting in the latter being seen as an imitator. It was seen as a statement not just from DreamWorks, but from Katzenberg especially. You pushed me out, I know how your system works, and I can compete with you on your own battlefield. The way Antz was pushed out wasn't plagiarism, it was strategic aggression. Completely legal in the eyes of Hollywood, but not very ethical, depending on who you ask. Case in point, it shares a similar plot with A Bug's Life in both stories, where in both stories, a common worker ant who's known for his unorthodox thinking sparks a chain of events that affects his entire colony and lands him a romance with the princess. The plot of Antz is an ironic twist. In the movie, Mandible wants to flood the ant colony, wiping out all the ants so he can start anew. In the James Bond movie A View to a Kill, starring Roger Moore, the antagonist, Max Zorin, wanted to wipe out Silicon Valley by flooding the San Andreas Fault, by digging under the San Andreas Lake. And one of the cast members of this film, Christopher Walken, was portraying Max Zorin in A View to a Kill. While often compared to A Bug's Life, the plot bears some similarity to the novella Anthem by Ayn Rand. Both Anthem and Antz follow a single character, Equality 72521 in Anthem, and Z in Antz. The disaffected with his assigned position in a mechanized collectivist society, breaks free from the collective and makes a startling discovery about the world. Now, I think it's time to head into the colony and start the journey through the Dreamworks Diaries. Oh no! Oh right, okay, guys. Before you switch off, your eyes do not deceive you. Universal do own Dreamworks, and have done since August 2016, after the $3.6 billion deal was announced in April of that year. Anyway, here we go. Piano music plays over the opening credits as a magnifying glass goes through the opening credits and the cast, leading to the grass looking like the New York skyline.
You know, my mother never had time for me. You know, when you're the middle child in a family of 5 million, you don't get any attention. I mean, how's it possible?
That's Z in the middle of a therapy session, voiced by Woody Allen, with 4 Oscars to his name. Best Original Screenplay for Midnight in Paris, Hannah and Her Sisters, and Annie Hall, which also won him Best Director. He was also in the Casino Royale spoof in 1967 as Jimmy Bond, or Dr. Noah. Woody Allen recorded his part as Z in only 5 days. Z's full name or number in the script is Z4195. What those numbers could mean, the 4195, what that could mean, who knows? Woody Allen felt uncomfortable watching Z because he was reminded so much of himself. This is why he can never watch any of the films he makes in which he has a role. And that's a shame, because apparently Woody Allen nailed every reading he did for Z. But he also got very, very physical in the recordings, ruining some of the takes because the animators couldn't keep up with him. Some of the names considered for the role of Z included Leonardo DiCaprio, but he was busy with Titanic, Ben Affleck, and John Travolta. Woody Allen had uncredited input on the finished screenplay, which I find curious.
The whole system makes me feel insignificant.
Excellent. You've made a real breakthrough.
I have?
Yes, Z. You are insignificant.
I am?
Oh, wow! Even his therapist doesn't like him. What I find crazy impressive here is the size of the colony. In the original development, some of the ants wore clothes, gloves, and light bulbs appeared whenever they had an idea. Yeah, light bulb having an idea? I haven't seen that one before. None of these made it into the finished film, however. Also, General Mandible looked more visibly sinister in early drafts, but they toned it down for the final result.
Worker. Soldier.
And that's another thing that amazes me here. Even as infants, the colony is sorted into workers and soldiers pretty much almost immediately. One of the motivational signs in the ant colony, free time is for training, is a motivational sign at PDI Dreamworks, or Pacific Data Images. 3 guesses who I think produced that one. The music here is provided by two names who would soon become synonymous with DreamWorks, that being Harry Gregson Williams and John Powell. Harry's name I brought up previously in The Kingdom of Isolation with the Tigger movie, and John Powell with Bolt. Originally, this film was going to be composed by Hans Zimmer and David Newman, but they were busy with a few films in 1997 and 1998, so this film instead was composed by Harry Gregson Williams and John Powell, at the suggestion of Hans Zimmer to Jeffrey Katzenberg. Woody Allen did leave Tarzan to do this film instead after being persuaded by Jeffrey Katzenberg and being offered a 5-picture deal with DreamWorks. Woody has not been in an animated DreamWorks film since. Next time someone says they have this sort of opportunity for you, get a written contract, both sign it. If it's not followed through, take them to court. Anyway, we're then introduced to Azteca, voiced by musician Jennifer Lopez. Very curious casting choice. The names considered for the role of Azteca before Jennifer Lopez was cast: Drew Barrymore, Tracy Ullman, Joanna Lumley, Rosie O'Donnell, Kelly Preston, Susan Sarandon, Julianne Moore, Winona Ryder, Julie Roberts, Ashley Judd, Carly Simon, and Leslie Uggams. And I think any of those could have worked instead of J-Lo. And as far as Z is concerned, I'd choose John. I would have chosen John Travolta, personally. But hey, that's just me. Jennifer Lopez's character Azteca is named for an ant genus in the American tropics. And that's not the only name inspired by actual ants. Bala is the name that people in Costa Rica give to bullet ants, or the Paraponera clavata species.
Oh, it's stuck in my arm! It's stuck in my arm!
God bless Coyote Peterson. Barbatus is named after the Pogonomyrmex barbatus, or red harvester ant species. Azteca is named after the Azteca Andreae species. Weaver is named after weaver or green ant, genus Ochophylla. And cutter is named after the leafcutter ants, Genera atta and Acromyrmex. Also, General Mandible is named after the mandibles, which are the ant's jaws. Z ends up dropping the wrecking ball, and all hell breaks loose.
Workers, they're weak. They lack discipline. They lack commitment.
And this is how you command the screen time you have. You get the late Gene Hackman as General Mandible, 2 Oscars to his name for Unforgiven and The French Connection, both winning Best Picture in 1992 and 1971 respectively. His first nomination was for Bonnie and Clyde in 1967, but my personal favourite role is alongside fellow Oscar winner Denzel Washington in Crimson Tide. Some of the names considered for General Mandible before Gene Hackman was cast included Paul Newman, Sean Connery, Charlton Heston, Alec Guinness, Joaquin Phoenix, Donald Sutherland, Matthew McGorry, Christopher Walken, Carl Reiner, and James Gandolfini. The General's name was originally Formica instead of Mandible, and his original plan would have included tying Bala up and abandoning her in the tunnel with the workers, instead of isolating her in safety, and his original fate would have been drowning before rescuers could reach him. General Mandible wants the tunnel to be completed on time, otherwise they have to Antz Cutter, who's voiced by Christopher Walken, who won Best Actor for The Deer Hunter in 1978. Mandible informs Cutter of a termite army that has assembled, meaning the soldiers will also need to assemble for war soon. Ants and termites really do go to war with each other, but in reality, ants would emerge the victors because they would easily outnumber the termites' nest. In an early draft, Cutter was meant to have a worker girlfriend who was Bala's sole friend. The idea was dropped to focus more on Z's and Bala's, as well as Weaver's and Azteca's relationships. Christopher Walken's voice work was so excellent that Cutter's role was expanded, but Walken brought... he was originally a faceless lackey to General Manville, but Walken brought some unexpected depth to the character. Cutter does have a valid concern for the units loyal to the Queen. Approval from said Queen is needed before heading to war.
Our very next stop, Cutter.
Oh my gosh, yeah. One step ahead. Knows what he's doing. Oh, and by the way, who's the Queen again? Anne Bancroft, who won her Oscar for The Miracle Worker in 1962. Quite fitting that I'm starting the Dreamworks Diaries now, going through the cast and the Oscars they've won as we're approaching this year's Oscars. We're also introduced to Princess Bala, who's voiced by Sharon Stone, nominated for her role in Casino, and is most famous for that scene in Basic Instinct, which got parodied by The Simpsons in the Who Shot Mr. Burns mystery.
That's why we must strike now. We have the element of surprise!
Bala was a lot nastier in the early days of defining the character. Sharon Stone's reading helped to change that by balancing sass with spoiled without ever becoming too bratty. Sarah Jessica Parker had recorded dialogue for this movie, but was later fired for unspecific reasons. She was ultimately replaced by Sharon Stone, which leads me to assume that Sarah Jessica Parker was originally cast as Bala before Sharon Stone took over. Now, it's looking like Princess Bala will be marrying General Mandible, even if the latter is focused more on business!
Why'd I have to be born a worker? You soldiers get all the glory, plus you get to go out in the world. You know, you meet interesting insects, you get to kill them.
Yeah, but you get to spend all day with those beautiful worker girls.
And, ooh, that smooth, velvety voice of Weaver? Sylvester Stallone, who where do we begin with Sylvester Stallone? As far as the Oscars he's won is concerned, well, let's just say he is, aside from franchises like The Expendables, he's also best known as two-time heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Balboa! Now, 3 Oscar nominations in the Rocky franchise. And yes, I'm including the Creed spin-offs. Hear me out. 2 in 1975 for Best Original Screenplay and Best Actor for the first film in the franchise, and a Supporting Actor nomination for Creed in 2015. Rocky would ultimately win Best Picture in 75, as well as Best Director and Best Editing, alongside 5 further nominations, including Best Original Song for Gonna Fly Now. DreamWorks, you had a golden opportunity here to have the character Weaver be a female and voiced by Sigourney Weaver. And no, that doesn't mean that I'm woke, Gen Z. It was an opportunity to have an in-joke with a character's name. Weaver being female, voiced by Sigourney Weaver. The opportunity was right there! Anyway, Arnold Schwarzenegger was originally offered the part of Weaver when Schwarzenegger wanted to be paid for the role. It went to Sylvester Stallone, who was willing to do it for free.
Don't you want your 8-bit beer?
Call me crazy, but I have a thing about drinking from the anus of another creature, okay?
Suit yourself.
Oh, and there's your PG rating there. A reason why the movie has a PG rating from the MPAA is because of the casual swearing. An unusual thing to hear in an animated film, especially one that's aimed at families. This is often omitted whenever the film is shown on television. In the scene at the bar, Z says he doesn't want to drink from the anus of another creature. In the trailer, the word anus is replaced with caboose. No, not that one.
My name is Michael J. Caboose.
Red versus Blue. Awesome show. It's a legitimate strategy!
Yeah, and ever since we were little, I've been listening to you complain. What are you bitching about?
Okay, there's your PG rating. Wouldn't be hearing that on a TV broadcast before the watershed. Now, one of the bar patrons brings up Insectopia to Z. And it's clear he's suffering from a little bout of PTSD. Fun times. Paula asks Z to dance with her, giving us a pulp fiction reference. Blah. The two end up hitting it off. A bar fight breaks out, as is so often the case. Z gets knocked out and starts singing the next day. Woody Allen was offered accompaniment to sing Almost Like Being in Love, but he refused, preferring to sing it a cappella. And he did so. Now, according to the DVD commentary, Grebs, the ant scene in The Chug, was modelled after Cutter, with slight alterations such as the addition of whiskers and a chipped tooth. The main characters share facial similarities with the actors voicing them, but according to the DVD commentary, they were designed before the cast was hired, particularly Weaver's lips based on Sylvester Stallone's. Z was also going to wear thick glasses like Woody Allen's, but this idea was ultimately scrapped. Z then gets the idea of trying to become one of the soldiers by switching places with Weaver. 60,000 ants in General Mandible's army as Z meets Barbatus, voiced by Danny Glover.
What matters is the colony. He's willing to live for the colony, to fight for the colony, to die for the colony.
All for the greater good, right?
Shut it!
Oh, okay, Sergeant Nicholas Angel. 19 times. That's how many times General Mandible says colony in the movie. I'm not even going to try and keep track, but I'll do my best. Into battle we go, and nowhere to be seen. Looks like the termites are the ones with the
Element of surprise!
What's supposed to be a battle turns into an absolute slaughter and massacre. Weaver tries to charm one of the workers and manages to score a date. The worker, I assume, being Aztec. So, back with Z, the aftermath of the battle sees pretty much everyone dead, other than Z. Z's the only one that's alive. Everyone else is dead. He finds Barbatus, or what's left of him. Any resemblance to Starship Troopers during the termite battle scene is a pure coincidence, according to the directors. Hey, I'm doing my part.
I can see it in your eyes. I'm a goner.
DreamWorks, quick question. When did this become the horror movie cliche of the black character always dies? Z witnesses the toll of the carnage left from the war against the termites. Barbatus passes away after giving Z some words of advice.
Don't make my mistake, kid. Don't follow orders your whole life. Think for yourself.
Haunting moment, music and all. Back at the colony, General Mandible tries to hide the fact that he's slightly annoyed that one soldier did survive the battle. Z has an audience with the Queen. Afterwards, General Mandible is about to debrief Z until this happens.
Please, General, not on a first date.
Now, General Mandible has that look of, excuse me, what? In regard to the writing, we do get numerous shout-outs to Star Wars, which I'll cover in 2027 for the 50th anniversary. I'll also be celebrating Indiana Jones' 45th anniversary this year over the summer. Z gets bruised thanks to Princess Bala blurting out about dancing with him at the bar. General Mandible wants Z arrested, and before Z and Princess Bala fall out of the trash, leading to this. I'd say that's completely justified. We then get an Independence Day reference with sound effects from War of the Worlds, as a human with a magnifying glass aims it at the Antz. It's a warm, sunny day. You have a giant magnifying glass aimed at Antz. What do you think's gonna happen next?
It's beautiful.
Which way? Get out of there!
Have fun. Although there are humans in the film, we never see any faces. This may have been because DreamWorks Animation did not want to incur the same criticisms that Pixar Animation Studios received when Toy Story came out. The humans in the film looked grotesque and not at all plausible because they hadn't perfected a computer animated human face yet. Z and Princess Bala managed to escape, even if she's
absolutely livid
at Z, who decides to keep digging his metaphorical hole with this.
You know, I was gonna let you become part of my most erotic fantasies.
Z's line of "I was going to include you in my erotic fantasies" was originally going to be "I was going to include you in my most erotic sexual fantasies," but was shortened to retain a PG rating. In the German dubbed version, the sexual is included. The line was from a Spider sketch called What Causes Homosexuality, which was cut from Alan's Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex. But we're afraid to ask. Woody Allen was going to use that line as Louise Lasser was about to eat him, but the sketch was never used because Allen couldn't think of a way to end the scene. Since the sketch was not used, writers got a hold of the line and realizing the irony, spiders and ants, had Alan's characters, that being Z, stated. So, Princess Bala almost gets eaten by a praying mantis, while back at the colony, the Queen is determined to get Princess Bala back. A worker revolution starts at the colony, leading to potential chaos later. Princess Bala finds some water, only for Z to end up trapped in a water droplet. Thankfully, he's okay, even after being called out for being selfish and thinking about himself. They soon set sail for Insectopia. While back at the colony, every worker goes on strike, chanting Z's name. "We want Z! We want Z! We want Z!" General Mandible goes full dictator, brainwashing the workers into thinking Z doesn't care about them.
Meanwhile, thousands of miles away,
Princess Bala and Z find what turns out to be a picnic table, which Z thinks is Insectopia, and encounters a couple of wasps. Chip is voiced by Dan Aykroyd, while Muffy is voiced by Jane Curtin. Dan has an Oscar nomination for Driving Miss Daisy and is best known for Ghostbusters and Blues Brothers, both of which he wrote and starred in. Jane has 2 Emmys to her name for Kate and Alley in 1984 and 1985. Well, everyone's dead. Time for the scores.
Oh no!
Look out!
Scratch that. It's just Muffy that's dead. In the original script, the giant human wearing the shoes was a young woman, but half of the script and some sketches were changed for the final draft of the film. In the final storyboard and in the film's picnic scene, the human wearing the shoes is an unseen teenage boy.
Who the hell is that?
Now, I believe that's supposed to be Abraham Lincoln. I might be wrong. Back with General Mandible, he's trying to interrogate Weaver with minimal success. Eventually, Z's destination is revealed and General Mandible wants Princess Bala returned safely, while also wanting Z to be killed.
But you said he didn't matter.
It's for the good of the colony.
What's General Mandible's colony count at right now? Z and Princess Bala make it to Insectopia, while I can see clearly now the rain is gone starts playing. Neil Finn providing the vocals for his rendition of the classic. Cutter hunts Princess Bala and Z down, who spend time getting to know each other.
What if, like, we're just these tiny little things, and we're just, like, part of this whole other huge universe?
You might want to speak to Pixar about that. Why do you think every film they've made has A113 as an Easter egg? I know it's officially called A113, but I still call it A113. It's A113 to me, okay? Princess Bala lies to Cutter about Z being dead, only for Cutter to force her back to the colony with him. Chip gets Z back to the colony, where Princess Bala calls off the wedding, leaving General Mandible to lock her in his office while Z makes it back to try and get her back. They both discover that the tunnel opening is really leading to the lake, which will flood the colony. General Mandible orders the tunnels sealed up so no one gets in and no one gets out. Princess Bala tries to warn her mother while Z tries to stop the diggers. Z is also reunited with Weaver at this point.
Get back to work!
What's that noise?
Well, don't you look stupid now, boss! Water starts flooding in, and it looks like there's no way out, except for making a huge ladder out of everybody to get everyone out at the top. General Mandible, meanwhile...
We can all stand proud. It is time for a new beginning.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, Cutter then decides to disobey General Mandible, causing him to snap.
This is for the good of the colony, sir.
You useless, ungrateful maggot! I am the colony!
Eat your heart out, Palpatine. Z pushes Cutter out of the way, taking the hit from General Mandible in the process. The latter dies after hitting the ground, while Z almost drowns. Cutter gets Z out of the water. Princess Bala performs CPR to save him, and thankfully he pulls through. Z celebrated as a hero. Azteca goes on her date with Weaver, and we finish with a shot of New York City to end the film. So that whole colony was in Central Park. So, for the first time in the Dreamworks Diaries, it's time for the scores. The story, I'm going to give an 8. Actually, just before we go any further, for those that are new here, how the scores will work is I've got 5 sections: story, characters, visuals, animation in this case, if I'm covering an animated film, soundtrack, the music, be it the songs, the film score, or both, and the legacy, which will include things like box office, critical reception on Rotten Tomatoes, any awards the films may have won, video games, sequels, franchises, anything along those lines. And then we get a final overall score, and we'll put it onto the scoreboard. So, here we go. The story, I'm going to give it an 8. The story of Antz stands out for how ambitious it is thematically compared to most films of the late 90s. Beneath the surface of a comedy about insects lies a narrative about exploring individuality versus conformity, existential anxiety, and the idea of trying to find meaning in a system that treats you as expendable. The film also leans into class struggle between workers and elites while presenting a clear critique of totalitarianism. Yeah. Through General Mandible's authoritarian ambitions. While the plot structure itself is fairly straightforward, these philosophical and political ideas give the story a surprising depth and make it far more thought-provoking than its premise initially suggests. The characters I'm also going to give it. One of the film's greatest strengths is its voice cast, which features an impressive lineup of major Hollywood talent. Performances from actors like Gene Hackman as General Mandible, Sylvester Stallone as Reaver, and Sharon Stone as Princess Marla give the characters a surprising amount of personality and presence. However, the one performance that doesn't quite land as well for me is Woody Allen as Z. While his neurotic style clearly shapes the character's personality, the performance can feel slightly mismatched with the tone of the film at times. Even so, the strength of the wider cast helps create a memorable ensemble that carries the film's humor and emotional beats effectively. The visuals, I'm going to give a 7. Visually, Antz represents an important step in the evolution of computer animation. Produced with the assistance of Pacific Data Images, the film showcases detailed environments, large-scale colony scenes, and ambitious action sequences such as the termite battle. For its time, the animation was impressive, particularly in the way it conveyed the scale of the underground colony and the complexity of thousands of ants working together. However, like many early CGI films, the character models and textures can feel slightly rigid or dated compared with later animated productions. The soundtrack, I'm going to give a 7. The musical score by Harry Gregson Williams and John Powell provides a solid foundation for the film, supporting both the comedic and dramatic moments effectively. The music helps reinforce the scale of the colony and the tension of key scenes such as the battle with termites. While the score is well crafted and fits the film's tone, it doesn't particularly stand out compared with other animated film scores of the era or the later work of its composers, making it competent but not especially memorable. And finally, the legacy, which I'm going to give a 7. In terms of said legacy, Antz performed respectably both critically and commercially. The film holds a strong 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, demonstrating that critics responded well to its satire and mature themes. Financially, it earned $171.8 million at box office, against a reported budget of between 42 and 105 million, making it difficult to determine whether it was a major success or simply profitable. The film also received 4 Annie Award nominations, though it lost in each category to The Iron Giant, criminally underrated in my opinion. It also received a BAFTA nomination for Best Special Visual Effects, ultimately losing out to Saving Private Ryan. Its influence extended into other media as well, spawning several video games across the Game Boy Color, PC, Xbox, PlayStation 2, and the Game Boy Advance. While a planned direct-to-video sequel was announced, it was ultimately cancelled before it could effectively materialize. So, the final score. Overall, Antz stands out as a distinctive early entry in late 90s animation, blending adult-oriented satire with the structure of a mainstream animated adventure. Its story stands out for tackling themes such as individuality versus conformity, existential anxiety, class struggle, and a critique of totalitarianism, ideas rarely explored so directly in animated films at broad audiences. The film was further elevated by a strong ensemble cast including Gene Hackman, Sylvester Stallone, and Sharon Stone, although the central performance from Woody Allen may not work for everyone. Visually, the early CGI animation developed with the help from Pacific Data Images was technically impressive for its time, even if it now shows its age. Meanwhile, the score by Harry Gregson Williams and John Powell supports the film well without being especially memorable, With strong critical reception, including that 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a respectable box office run, the film carved out a solid, if somewhat overshadowed, legacy in the animation landscape of the late 90s, especially given the fact that A Bug's Life did perform better at the box office. These elements give Antz a final score of 74%, marking it as a thoughtful and entertaining film whose themes still resonate, even if some aspects have aged over time. So, yeah, I can definitely recommend this one. It's a strong starting point for DreamWorks, but oh boy, what they'd release a few months later would send them into literal biblical status. But we'll get to that in the next entry of the Dreamworks Diaries. So that is it for this entry into the Dreamworks Diaries. If you enjoyed this entry, I'm that used to calling it episodes because of the Kingdom of Isolation. Bear with me. We're just getting started. If you enjoyed this entry into the Dreamworks Diaries, you can hit the thumbs up. And if you want to help me write these Dreamworks Diaries, you can hit the subscribe button down at the bottom, click the bell, turn on notifications so you don't miss when the next entry gets written. So, I mentioned biblical just a moment ago because, oh boy, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite animated films of all time as we head to
The Prince of Egypt.
But until then, make each moment count, and I'll see you next time for another entry into the Dreamworks Diaries.